you know that their kind of heart is in it, because you get so much rejection all the time that unless you have like something pushing you on to do it, you're not gonna do it, because like most people will take so many like no's before you are like, well, I'm just gonna do something else, you know?
Well, hello there, my friendly subverts. It's lovely to have you back here with me again for another edition of Subversion, where you can count on me to bring you an interview with an independent musician once a week. We dig into the finer details of life, figure out exactly what it is that drives people to create. And I really make a point of getting down to very vulnerable topics with people. And if you've been listening for any amount of time, you'll note that I asked probably two of the most prying questions that you ever possibly could, which involve the person's upbringing in childhood. There are a lot of things that you could dig up there that people don't want to talk about. And on the subject of death, which that's sort of the constant third rail in our culture. Not just in our culture, I suppose, just in humanity in general, just the human condition. And there's a purpose to that. And I'm very intentionally getting to these topics so that I can sort of get people outside of their comfort zone. Because in entertainment specifically, it's sort of something to take our mind off of things that we don't want to think about in our recreation. Because if you don't have things to entertain your mind, it tends to wander to dark places. I, for one, really like to explore those dark places, but I myself am inundated with media all around me, and it's sort of a double-edged sword. I mean, I really do enjoy the ability to just click a few buttons and get to practically anybody I want to on the internet. But at the same time, there's something really dark about being able to do that. Like, it used to be a challenge to connect with people. Just to sort of get down to my point here, I really do hope that this program does add value to people's lives in that way, in that I am digging into topics that we don't usually discuss. And I know with the things going on in the world right now, we're constantly talking about politics online and whatnot, and that's a huge part of who I am. I mean, if you're familiar with me, I'm pretty opinionated and make no bones about it. So I get it. But I turn off that part of my mind for this show, and I just want to connect with people. But other than just the recreation of doing this show, what I'm trying to do is fund some charity projects. I am on Gret Gleyer's email list, which I had him on a few weeks ago for a bonus episode, and he runs a program called DonorSee. Now on his email list today, he sent out this heartfelt message about this charity project that he is promoting in Malawi. And it's about something that I've talked about a lot in these sort of preambles here, about how clean drinking water is a problem in most parts of rural Africa. And a lot of people die of just having dirty water. This particular village that Gret is trying to get a water well for, a little girl died recently in January, and they just have some major health problems there, and they're trying to get some funding to get a well put in. And one person that has really drove me to get into the whole charity thing was a guy named Justin Wren, who does this for a living besides his MMA career. And just to break it down for you, Gret sort of gives you how much money it takes to really make an impact here. And just to put it in perspective how far your dollar really goes, it is $1.48 to supply clean drinking water for a family of 4 for a year. So that is an immense gift. I mean, if you gave $5, that's a couple families that you're helping out. So it really would help out if you could donate to this project. And there's a comment section when you go to donate. So if you do donate to this project, please just kind of make it known in the comment section where you came from and that Trey from Subversion sent you. So yes, this is a very important project here, and they're only one of countless villages that have this problem. So if you can help out, any amount helps, please do so. All right, I'll stop talking and let's get into this interview.
All right, well, hello everyone. My name's Eliott. I've got a few musical projects in the running right now. Coming up, I got a couple mixtapes that are coming out. It's called Anti-Social Media. I'm pretty excited about that one. Me and my brother worked on it together. He produced the beat, and I went and sung over it. I did some guitar riffs over it, and I also put samples over it.
Okay, right on.
Mm-hmm.
So why don't you tell me a little bit about growing up? Are you a Minnesota native then?
Yep, I was born and raised in actually Minneapolis, like proper inner city. So no suburbs or anything like that. Yeah, and really know Minneapolis, like the proper town, really well, and have a lot of friends here. Basically, from growing up here, I could have so many stories. I probably have a story for like every street corner.
How about the Dinkytown area? I lived there my first year I moved up here. We used to always like to go. There's like a bridge that goes over the train tracks, kind of between. I don't know what park it is, but it's around 15th and Como, and like at night you can see the cityscape. It's just like the perfect place to go and hang out.
Oh yeah, Dinkytown is full of like great views for sure.
Yeah, because they've got kind of that nice elevation there if you want to look out. So.
Oh yeah, definitely. No one there. Yeah, I'm thinking of that bridge that's over. It's over the bike path and like the railroad tracks. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I kind of miss living in that part of town because, I mean, it was a little crazy for me because it's sort of in college town. So
right.
So there's like always parties going on, and I would always have to work really early in the morning. So that got a little old.
That is the worst.
But it was fun because my neighbors always had parties going on, so I could always go and hang out with them.
Right.
And if I did want to go do something, or there'd be something going on at my own place. So why don't you tell me a little bit about growing up in the inner city? I mean, for me, that's kind of contrast to my upbringing. I grew up in rural North Iowa, so I'm just kind of curious to get a glimpse at what it was like for you.
I think the main thing that I would probably like, if I would boil it down to one word, is like kind of independence. And that might just be, like the way my parents were or whatever, is that like I kind of grew up to be pretty independent and was kind of doing my own thing, whether I was like cutting class or, running around town. Because, you can get around on your own as a kid. You can just take the city bus around or like, bike somewhere, and like you can actually get somewhere within a day. And so, there's all sorts of stuff you can do.
Okay. Right on. So tell me a little bit about how do the inner city schools work? I mean, I hear a lot of horror stories about inner city schools, but I don't necessarily always have a chance to talk to people about it. So like, which school did you go to and which part of town, and kind of what was that like?
Sure, yeah. So I went to Field as a middle schooler. So that was basically right off 35W, so fairly inner city, and it was back, when it was less nice of a neighborhood. Like Minneapolis has gotten a lot nicer, I would say, in the last like 10 years, like of me growing up, which is kind of surprising that like even within that short of time you'd see that much development. But I would say, after middle school, this was kind of interesting, is we kind of had to apply for our high schools like you would for college. So it was like academic based, but I think I was like on the very last year of that. So my brother actually went to the neighborhood high school. He's my little brother. But I went to Southwest, which is like in Linden Hills, pretty close to here actually. So,
okay. That's interesting. I've never heard of high schools or public schools really working in that way outside of like voucher systems. So I'm going to have to read up on that after we're done here, because I'm just really curious. But you said it ended?
Yeah, I think now it's like a lottery system, and my brother just chose to go to the neighborhood one. But back, like, I remember being in like 7th or 8th grade, and they'd be like, remember, you got to get good grades and like get good test scores, otherwise you won't get to go to the high school of your choice, and So yeah,
I wouldn't imagine a lot of high school kids really want to go to a school that's too far from their house anyway, though. I mean, but I guess if you're in the inner city, you are really within reach of a lot of different high schools.
Yeah.
With accessible transportation and whatnot.
Yeah, and they all had kind of their own like a bit connotation, or like that rough middle school like vibe that everybody has about things. Like I remember Southwest was the prep school, South was the emo school, Washburn was like the jock / hood school. It's just like people had these like mentalities, and probably it was like kind of accurate, kind of not. But I would say Southwest was unique in that like the theater kids would kind of be like the main clique of like who everyone's involved with, and then the sports kids were kind of more out there because our school is not known for sports.
Sure. So which clique did you fall into then?
I was always bouncing around up until I kind of found my group of like, we were all like kind of biker hipsters of kind of weird kids who I like to refer to like my high school friend group as like the Isle of Misfit Toys, kind of, because we were always like we were basically a group of those odd kids who would always bounce around until we all found each other, and then we were just like, oh, like screw everybody else, like we got our own little thing going on. And we actually had a weird situation with a bike shop where our friend like was working for this bike shop where we later found out that like the owner was ill or something, so he just had nothing to do with it. So it was kind of our little clubhouse, and we would like like hang out and try to fix bikes but not really know how, and like order Chinese food off of the money, and it was pretty good times. Yeah.
I am really curious about how cliques work in an inner city school, because for me, to tell you a little bit about the town that I grew up in, it's kind of half a yuppie town because it's a tourist town. It kind of attracts, it's got high property values. Mm-hmm. So if people can live on this nice lake that has all these events going on, you're kind of a mucky muck.
Right.
So there's a lot of economic segregation in the cliques in the school. But that was because, my graduating class was like 80 some kids.
Right.
I mean, we're literally a school out in the cornfield basically. So, so our graduating classes were not that large. So for me, there were a couple like cool cliques, but then as we got older, everybody kind of splintered off into their own little thing. Like a lot of the band geeks and theater geeks sort of created their own little group where almost everybody who wasn't a jock was sort of welcome in a way, mm-hmm. but you're not really close friends. I don't know how to explain it really, but yeah, it was kind of hard to find your niche, more or less.
Yeah, and I think it is for most people.
Yeah.
Most people imagine. Don't fall, unless they're in like one of those tight little crews of like the few like 3 or 4 people who are like the center of a group, Mm-hmm. And then outside of it, it's all just like orbiters and people who come and go. And
sure,
that was my experience. So like, I guess of like kind of not starting a clique, but like having it happen. Cause once people are doing something, it attracts other people.
Sure. So what kind of extracurriculars were you involved in when you were in high school?
I was not probably partying. I mean, sort of.
Fair enough.
I didn't do much with that. I didn't have a lot of school spirit. I was kind of like, screw the school because, they were always trying to lock us in. We grew up after 9/11 and everything. So it's like, you have security cameras in every hallway and like magnetic. Wow. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's not like for everyone growing up, but like in the city, we have that standard. It was like, and the doors are all locked. So it's very much like almost like a prison atmosphere. So, when you're out, and then especially then if you're like not in school when you should be, you have a different outlook on like the police, for example, because they see you as being automatically a criminal because, you're not in school, you're a truant. So, yeah.
Sure. Yeah. I guess I haven't been in school since 2006. So I don't know what it's like back in my hometown. Mm-hmm. But I'm pretty sure there are these safety protocols that all schools are sort of doing now. I mean, 9/11 obviously has something to do with people's reactionary like worry about security, right? Mm-hmm. But then there's just also the tragedies like Sandy Hook and these other school shootings that sort of sort of really heighten people's
Yeah,
worry.
yeah.
You know, and the funny thing is, I just recorded an interview last week with this guy, and we got into this long discussion about how the world is actually safer than it ever has been. But you wouldn't be able to tell that from the way that people treat security, you know, because
Right.
security measures get tighter and tighter as the world gets safer and safer. So yeah, it's just an interesting thing for me to think about.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing I'm curious of, so you weren't in band or anything when you were in high school or middle school?
I was in band up until middle school. My parents forced me to play, so that probably was a good move. But
Sure.
I was like a trumpet in middle school, so mostly just wanted to be loud. And I think towards the end of 8th grade, I went on to convince my dad to get me a drum kit. Wasn't super great at drums. My brother got a guitar, so I started fooling around on that, and then I ended up fooling around more, playing with it more than he did.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got my own, and then kind of been playing guitar ever since then, so since I've been a freshman.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right on. So what are some of your musical influences? This is something that I really want to know because your music is pretty obscure,
Mm-hmm.
and definitely it reminds me of this one artist that I used to listen to. I can't remember the guy's name, but he was from the 90s, and it was just like him with a little recorder and his guitar, and it gives me the same sort of feeling when I'm listening to your music as I did.
Maybe
listening
it's
to that.
Jeff Buckley? No?
That sounds really familiar.
Yeah. He did Hallelujah, a cover of Hallelujah. That was pretty famous. It's like his famous.
It might
name,
be, but I'll look it up when we're done here, and I'm sure you'll know who I'm talking about.
Right.
But anyway, it's like this sort of indie feeling music where it sort of brings me out of this retrospect that I'm in right now. So anyway, I'm just kind of curious what informs your musical stylings, more or less.
Oh yeah. Well, that's like obviously probably a huge question for any sort of musician, and like, because I'm always out there looking for new types of music. So almost it depends on the project that I'm working on, is that like puts me in a certain headspace. But I definitely have like classics of almost every genre that I love. Like folk, I love Neil Young, Bob Dylan, rock, Led Zeppelin, early Black Sabbath, Jimi Hendrix, of course. Every guitar player looks up to him. And I have some hip hop influence too, because I appreciate that, some of that kind of music. Johnny Cash, because same kind of voice frame a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
The Doors, and then a lot of like 90s and 80s alternative, like the Smiths, New Order, that
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing too. Definitely, especially in like my earlier songs, a lot more like folk and rock influence, and now I'm kind of starting to move towards like more like singing and pop.
Okay.
Hip hop. And
one of my favorite albums of his is what is it? Something about the Gold Rush.
yeah, After the Gold Rush.
After
I was
the
about
Gold
to
Rush,
say
that's right.
it's flawless. I would say
that thing front to back
Yep.
is just great. And I mean, I'm a huge fan of his, but that's probably the only album that I'm able to actually get all the way through without getting bored or
Mm-hmm.
I mean, no disrespect, obviously, like I've got an immense amount of respect for Neil Young, but that was just one thing I've noticed is like that particular album was just kind of his peak in my mind. But maybe I just need to hear more of his stuff. It's like Tom Waits.
Mm-hmm.
Like I wasn't always a fan of Tom Waits, but then I heard Blue Valentines, and that really sort of piqued my interest.
Right.
I'm not sure if you're familiar with Tom Waits.
I am
at all.
familiar. I'll have to check out that one.
Yeah, that's an excellent album. But yeah, why don't we get into some of your music here? So I'm not sure if you want to go in any particular order at all.
It's fine by me.
Okay. So maybe the first one we'll start with is Lazy Day.
Sounds good. Yeah.
So
Yeah, baby. Yeah, baby. all jump to conclusions, let me get something straight. I'm not hating on lazy girls. I freaking love lazy girls. I am a lazy girl. And before we all jump to conclusions, let me get something straight. I'm not hating on the lazy girls. I freaking love the lazy girls. I am a lazy girl.
Just another lazy
Yeah, baby. Yeah, baby. Hey guys, I'm back with another hair hack. I'm back with another hair hack. And before we all jump to conclusions, let me get something straight. I'm not hating on the lazy girls. I freaking love lazy girls. I am a lazy girl. And before we all jump to conclusions, let me get something straight. I'm not hating on the lazy girls. I freaking love lazy girls. I am a lazy girl. Yeah, baby. And before we all jump to conclusions, let me get something straight. I'm not hating on lazy girls. I freaking love lazy girls. I am a lazy girl.
Just another lazy day. It's just another lazy day. It's just another lazy day.
Yeah, baby.
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 No,
I'm back with another hair. I'm back with another hair. I'm back with another hair.
How did this work into the hair video, the lazy girl thing?
She just kind of like opened up the video and she's like, yeah, baby, like today we're doing a hair video, like, and I'm a lazy girl, and like da 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 da. I'm like, this is like priceless. I have to use it. Like,
Yeah. Sounds like a young girl too or something.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of just weird videos you can find from people like when I was a kid, when YouTube was really getting to be popular, anybody and everybody with a digital camera that could record had something silly on there that, you know, you had to kind of wade through
Oh yeah.
it to get to the gems out there.
I know, I was on there.
Yeah. I had a friend that his brother did parkour videos.
Oh,
and,
nice.
Yeah, and uploaded them. And because he was like a little 12-year-old kid, like he could just jump over and under anything and everything. It's kind of funny how YouTube has evolved. You didn't used to be able to make money off of YouTube.
Right. That's pretty new, and it's pretty good now, like reasonably good, I would
Yeah.
say.
So, and the complicated thing about sampling, it's kind of an illegal gray area, right? Because of copyright.
Yep. Yeah.
And I've learned a little bit about the whole intellectual property mess in music when I was trying to start this project. The format was actually a little bit different. I was just going to interview anybody and everybody I thought was interesting and just talk about whatever music has impacted their lives. But I came to learn that if you're using like licensed music on a podcast, because it gets downloaded, you have to have like the mechanical license is what it's called, which is full rights to it. So logistically, it just wasn't happening.
Right.
But the thing is, I adapted to doing this, which has given me an opportunity to meet some really cool musicians. And I'm glad I went this route.
Yeah.
You know, and that I didn't just outright give up on it.
Definitely. Yeah, copyright is one of those things that's hard, but definitely is there for a reason, I would say.
Yeah.
Just because, you know, it's getting to the big part right now. But yeah, copyright is kind of one of those things. As far as sampling goes, the main things I keep in mind is basically like the reinterpretation. Like, so for a song like this, I count it as like totally fair game, because she's not even like doing music. It's
right.
Essentially completely unrelated, and you know, I transformed her voice too. Like, it's nothing even close to the original.
Sure.
And then the second part of it is basically like financial damage, is like how they go over it, and really what that means is like, are you making money off of it that would be taken from them? Mm-hmm. So you can kind of like even using like just a small snippet of a song, it's not like someone is listening to your song to hear that song. They would just hear the other song. So you're not really taking any revenue from them. But if you were playing like a 30-second sample, like, then that you can see how that would, you know, go into that area. And even like there's a lot of like really popular songs out there that they must have had like a nightmare, like, you know, after the song became popular, then going back and doing that, you know, like Vanilla Ice,
right?
And Under Pressure. I don't know like the whole backstory to all that, but
yeah. I've been having conversations with people recently about intellectual property, and it's such a confusing world of legality, because it's like it's almost, it fringes on like, how do I say it? It's like almost a crime of thought in a way. Mm-hmm. Like if you think about the concept of intellectual property, you know, like let's say you happen to have this divine inspiration for a song, right? And somebody else had a similar vision, and it came out that the harmony sounded pretty close, the lyrical content sounded pretty close, but you know, one of you got popular and the other one was like, he stole that from me. He must have heard it on my SoundCloud, right, and stole it from me. So it's just kind of like, how do you even quantify that? Or, you know, it's just really confusing. And I'm sure it's especially weird for someone in the arts, because it's like someone can totally rip you off, right? I mean, I can see the arguments definitely for intellectual property, but I think in the age of the internet that we're in, it's almost like copyrights are going to kind of go away in a way, because you can put, for example, with an MP3 track, you can layer it with encryption, so that basically whenever you share it somewhere, it either notifies you or notifies the publisher of wherever you're putting it that it's somebody else's intellectual property. So let's say you use samples from an MP3 of whatever, you know, it flags YouTube. And I've ran across this when I'm doing this program. I'll upload an episode where I've got MP3s cut in. Oh yeah. And I have permission to use them from this record company, but it still says that I can't make ad revenue off of the
or you share it,
right? Which, you know, I don't have ads yet. But yeah, I just would imagine that something's going to have to change for people in the music side of podcasting for me, and it's just been something I've been sort of mulling over in my own head. Yeah. But yeah, we can move on here. Why don't we talk about Small World? So this record, The Road, is this when was this one released then?
That was released it was back last year, Probably like, I can't remember exactly when, because it's all kind of hazy when I recorded it and when I actually released it, because, you know, as an independent musician, you kind of don't have like an epic release, you know, where you like go tour. No, you just kind of like put it out there and, you know, share it, and that's pretty, you know. But that was probably like last fall, early December, and I basically recorded it. It started out as like kind of demo recordings, but then they kind of took on a shape of their own as I realized I was kind of doing this interesting thing where like basically I was just using like a keyboard and a guitar and my voice to make everything, and, you know, just kind of like banging on like the bed to like make the percussive element, and use a tambourine as well. So it definitely, I think, has a unique sound to everything, and also, I just think like the songwriting quality, like the songs are well written. They're some of my favorite songs I've done, I think.
You say love's not right for you, but do not say she denied you, 'cause your world is getting smaller. You sit up there in your chair, so impartial, unfair, but your world is getting smaller. And I'd like to tell you the facts, just to get you on track. Your world is getting smaller, and it's a very, 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 very small world. It's a very, 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 very small world. Yeah, it's a very, 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 very small world. And you say her love's not right for you, but don't say she denied you, 'cause your world is getting smaller. And all you need to do is just pick up the line. I'm right here. And all you need to do is pick up the line. I am right here. All you need to do is pick up the line. I'll always be there for you. For you, but do not say she denied you, 'cause your world is getting smaller. And you sit up there in your chair, oh, so impartial and fair, but your world is getting smaller. And your eyes have crowded your mind. You're so safe and blind, but your world is getting smaller.
Oh, you know what happiness to it.
Yeah, it's a very, 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 very small world. A very, 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 very small world. It's a very, 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 very small world. So very, 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 very
Yeah, and I think there's a certain quality of like it makes it feel more genuine when you're just using the least amount of resources at your disposal when you're an independent musician. When I was younger, I mean, I've never played in like a nice professional band or anything.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, when me and my friends, we created this little 3-piece project. Just my buddy on the drums, another friend on guitar, and me on bass. Mm-hmm. And that was some of the most fun I've ever had in my life. Just playing on my friend's porch and recording on this little laptop, and putting it on MySpace.
Yep.
This is the era that I grew up in, when MySpace was
and
relevant.
I had MySpace.
And what's funny about MySpace is like it was still relevant for musicians past like the actual social media thing. Like it kind of hung on just a little bit for musicians until streaming services kind of took over.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's some of my favorite music. In fact, is some of that stuff that like black metal bands that like it sounds like they just recorded it in a garage with a microphone hanging.
Yeah, definitely is something to that. I would say because like not everybody, you can tell when there's like a person out there who is just automatically famous, or like already grows up with resources, like a Matty B type person, if you know who that is, like an 8-year-old. He's like an 8-year-old rapper who has very high production quality. It's like your parents bought you this. It's like this is probably like maybe even a phase for you, but like if you're a real musician, in my opinion, you kind of don't have a choice. Because you are like anybody who persists with it for any length of time, that their kind of heart is in it, because you get so much rejection all the time that like unless you have like something pushing you on to do it, you're not gonna do it, because like most people only will take so many like no's before you are like, well, I'm just gonna do something else.
Man, I got to tell you too, being an independent musician is really competitive. I mean, especially now where almost everybody has a platform. If you can get your music recorded and get it out there, I mean, there's a lot, and that's kind of why I'm doing this in a way. I really do want to see independent musicians get their due and at least be heard, because there's a lot of talent out there, but it's almost like the people that want to listen to independent musicians are sort of this niche group. It's almost becoming a minority of people that actually, like I've got this friend that runs an entertainment company, and it's a group of rappers, and they mostly just do these kind of small club shows where people go in there. It's just a Friday night. They're just going to go out. They're not like going to see the musician.
Right.
They're just going to dance, which is something I've never been able to like relate with, because I go out specifically to see a musician, of any kind. But
yeah, I'd agree with that. And I definitely think that, like especially like with the big shows, it's almost like a conspicuous consumption like type of thing, like like that you have the money to go see a Beyonce, or the money to go see whoever, Drake, what have you.
Sure.
It's like I don't think because how different is it going to be from the record if you have like a whole team of engineers and they're pretty much I don't know if they lip sync or not, but I mean they have a whole team of people doing this, making it as close as possible to the record. It's going to be pretty close. Not saying that it's like not a great show. They have a lot of lights and
Sure.
like things like that, but it's like is it about the music at that point, or is it about putting on a show, which I'm fine with the show too, but
yeah, there's a certain level of showmanship that any musician has.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's like it reminds me too, I was just about to go and get tickets to Tool. A couple the tickets were just released like last week for it, right? And I missed it by like 15 minutes, and all the good ones were sold out. But I don't even know if I would have bought them anyways, because they were super expensive.
Right.
And it's like, I could I'm a huge Tool fan. I've never seen them. They're like legitimately one of my favorite bands. One of my first records I ever bought. Like really was a groundbreaking part of my life.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a huge fan. But I just can't bring myself to pay like $150, $200 to go and see them. It's like, I'd rather just sit at home and like play some video games while I listen to their record or something.
Go buy all their records for that amount of price, you know.
A fraction of it.
Yeah.
In fact. Shit, I just got the one of their LPs for like $20 for a double, you know. So it's like you can get their quality product for that much.
Yeah. Yeah, I always leave that little tag, especially when I perform it live. You know, and usually it's good to have some sort of introduction to a song when you perform it for people. Otherwise, they're kind of just like, you know, what?
Yeah.
So that's one of those songs I picked it just because it's like one of my more field-tested songs. It's always like a good live song. And it's like campfire song that like everybody wants to enjoy, and it really resonates, and I don't really even know why or like where it came from at all. Like I was just kind of strumming like small world, da 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 da, and you know, but it is a small world. Maybe it's technology, I don't know what, but yeah, man. I'm totally into the folk vibe of it, definitely, and if I remember right, a lot of this record that I listened to was kind of like that, and so was the one from this next track, Willow the Wisp. Yep.
Yeah, definitely more in the folk.
Yeah, Willow was very like folk mixed with electronic, and that was with my year of living in Dinkytown actually when I recorded that. I had a studio apartment, and I was a very lonely kid because I didn't have a lot of like college friends. I did go to the U of M, but I was like a transfer student, and I never lived on campus until I was actually a senior. So by the time I was like a senior on campus, everybody had their friends, and I was just kind of like chilling in my studio apartment and recording Willow the Wisp. But that was the first time I had like a private place to record, and so I really like did some interesting things with it.
Sure.
The road is definitely like straight down the line, I would say folk, you know, but it's got some interesting like production in it, but it's definitely straight down the line. Willow has some more like electronic and just like weird composition and more improv too.
Sure.
Yeah.
So before we get too far away from Small World, is there anything in there lyrically, content-wise that, I mean, I know you said that this one just kind of came to you and it was more, and here's the thing is I feel like when I ask these kind of questions to musicians, like they get put on the spot because not every song that you make has to have some sort of like big meaning. Sometimes it's just an outpour of emotion, right?
True.
I mean, and I feel like sometimes they're expecting, like they think that I'm expecting something deep and profound. But yeah, no, I mean, even if it's just as simple as this sounded clever, that's enough for me because you can't make, you know, there are so many songs that I would imagine an artist wants to make, but they're just like, just poetically, it doesn't really fit, you know, so they have to change it up from the original intent of the message for the sake of the creative value of it, I suppose.
I definitely put a lot of meaning into my lyrics. Like that's just the way I typically write, although not always. Like sometimes it is, you know, just like a clever line, but like if it's a clever line, then I kind of, you know, will go backwards and compose around that. If I have a good, you know, musical part, I'll want to make good lyrics. So as far as Small World goes, it really is about that whole idea that the world is getting smaller, and it's also like a personal story in a way that we are allowing, like everybody is kind of allowing ourselves to make their world smaller, even though in a sense like you have so many more options, and we kind of choose to like pigeonhole ourselves down. So, you know, and part of it is the last part is like the personal part of like, you know, starting an office job out of college, and you sit up in your chair so impartial and fair. It's like kind of sarcastic in a sense, because how impartial are you, you know, sitting up there? So that's kind of what like the verses are like, and then Small World is just, you know, telling you that it's a small world, and then like the, you know, the whole like interconnectedness probably. I would point out to the line like, all you need to do is pick up the line, I'm right here. You know, everybody's available all the time, but how many times do you actually reach out to people and go through with it?
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah, that is an interesting phenomenon, right? I mean, and I feel like this is something that is getting brought up quite a bit with the change in our social structure. It's like, and I feel like in art, this is sort of starting to come out, where there are these critiques of social media where it's, I mean, the data shows it's pretty obvious that we are not being emotionally fulfilled by these interactions that we're having, but somehow we're getting more information and we're able to connect with people with that information, but it doesn't necessarily translate to catharsis, you know? And you know, if anything, that is another goal of this, is to bring, you know, one window of catharsis into people's weeks and connect them to someone that they don't know, you know? And I think it's kind of funny, even if I think about my own personal life and how I consume media, I almost know more about like podcasters, you know, than I do people in my own life. And it's kind of sad, right? But I'm trapped. Like, I don't feel like, and maybe it's because I consume so much podcast media because I'm the kind of work that I do. I have the opportunity to kind of just keep it in the background all day. So maybe this is me just projecting that particular anecdote. But no, I definitely feel like there is a wisdom in that message, in that song.
Things are gonna get better. Things are gonna get you will
So why don't you tell me a little bit about the lyrical content behind that one? I would imagine with a name like Heavenly Chorus, there's something there.
Well, it kind of started out like before I was talking about maybe you write a song about along to a clever line that, you know, like Small World gets fleshed out from like Small World sounding clever kind of. This probably got fleshed out from like the guitar part. So like the seed of the idea was like, wow, it's like, you know, like it's so heavenly sounding, especially when I used like a chorus effect. So that's kind of where the chorus comes in. It's not like a chorus of angels. It's like a boss, you know, like whatever chorus pedal that made the guitar part sound super cool. But, you know, then it becomes more fleshed out to have like some meaning about like, you know, kind of, I feel like, you know, when you're a kid, you're most closer to like a state of like godliness than maybe like, you know, like an adult is. You know, you're closer to that kind of thing. But by the time you realize like what you have, you've already kind of grown up a bit. And then you're like, you can't recapture that. So that's probably what the song is, you know, what it's going for is like, is it too late for you? No, it's not, you know.
Sure.
But maybe it is. Maybe we were just telling ourselves that.
Right. And I feel like youth is one of those things that is always out of the reach of a given person. I mean, I like to look fondly back at my childhood, you know, but at the same time, you know, I look back on it because I didn't have responsibilities and, you know, all this stuff. But I'm going to look back when I'm, you know, 10 years from now and be like, oh, man, I had it really well in my mid to late 20s. I don't know why I ever thought that there was a better time than that. But yeah, anyway.
Yeah, I agree. You know, most people are like, oh, you know, I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do, you know, chase my dreams tomorrow. Sure. And there is something to that, but I just try to take like one step a day, you know? Sure. Yeah, and then you've taken a bunch of steps and you're like, wow, I'm pretty far. Man,
I can't relate to that any more than with this, because it really took a lot to take the leap forward to start producing a show. Yeah. And whatnot. But one topic I like to close on is the subject of death, which I think goes along pretty well with theological themed last song there. So the specific question that I like to ask to get this started is, do you remember a moment in your childhood when you sort of realized your mortality? Like maybe a time, I don't know if you were Christian or whatnot, but a time that you maybe questioned your faith in Christianity that sort of led to a materialist worry about the end of your life?
Well, I remember being like pretty little, and there's like I think it's some sort of book, like maybe like a young adult novel or something. I don't know what it was, but it was something about like someone dying, and they used the metaphor of like their candle going out, and then that was the first time I really like, you know, was up awake at night about it. You know, like being like, oh my gosh, like, you know, one day this is all gonna end. But you know, as far as like Christianity, I wouldn't say I'm like a typical Christian. I think there's a lot of hidden meaning behind a lot of the words that are in the Bible that like you can't interpret literally. It's like very metaphorical in a sense that, you know, like everything has like a hidden meaning that is not completely clear like just by reading it, although there is like, you know, overt meaning to it as well. Obviously there's meaning, you know, there's just so many layers of meaning, and I respect like all sorts of religious texts, so I just you know, very interested in all of that spirituality, although right now I wish I could be more spiritual, but I'm just like so busy. Although I do observe like the day of rest, at least I, you know, have my day off and just like chill out and do nothing, but otherwise it's like I feel like I go like 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. every day, like, because I'm, you know, go to work and then I come home and work on music, or I'm like hanging out with people. Yeah, it's just always something. So
yeah, I definitely understand, and I should almost if it's just as simple as becoming a devout Christian or a Jew to take 1 day of rest. Yeah, but I should probably do that because I can't. Yeah, man, even on my days off, I'm working on stuff like this, and And yeah, I really do need to take care of myself and take that one day.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess I can't even talk because I still like check my phone and stuff like that.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
You know,
Is
like,
there anything
work on little stuff like, oh, just, you know, like see if I can put one link up somewhere. Yeah,
man. Is there anything is there any such thing as a day off for a creative person?
No.
Probably not.
No way.
I mean, because even if like I'm watching a show or like listening to some music or something like that, an idea will pop into my head and I've got to, you know, go and write it down or else it's gone forever.
Yeah, you absolutely, as a musician, you absolutely need to listen to that time. Like, it does not matter what time of day it is. That's why that's how you start pissing off your neighbors, you know, because you're like, oh, you know, like it's 2:30 in the morning and, you know, like, or like 3 in the morning and I just got back home from drinking, but I have a great song idea. Like, do not go to bed. Do not tell yourself it's not a good idea. It's probably one of the best ideas you've ever had.
Yeah. I think that's a theme that I see over and over with brilliant people is that they don't take a break for their creative inclinations. Like, myself included, I mean, I'll get into doing something of my own, you know, just writing whatever it is, and I've got to stay up, even though I've got to wake up at whatever 5 in the morning. Right. You know, I'm up at 11 o'clock and I still can't shut the computer down and go and just stop already.
I know. And what's surprising about it, I think too, is you'll wake up more tired if you know, did close the laptop and you just like let it stew up there. That would be draining you all night. Otherwise, but you know, you would like have 8 hours of sleep, but it wouldn't be a good sleep. But if you got like your 6 hours or 5 hours or whatever, you know, and then you just conk out, and then you're probably going to wake up more refreshed than you would have. Yeah. You won't wake up refreshed either way, though.
Right. Wise words.
Yeah.
But one thing before we close, you mentioned how you heard the metaphor of death as like a candle going out. Mm-hmm. I think that's a really apt analogy, especially for the age that you were when, I mean, I'm assuming this was when you were a little kid, right? I mean,
like 5 or so. Yeah, pretty young.
So and a metaphor like that is really intellectually accessible to a kid. Mm-hmm. And I would imagine that would be, you know, definitely impactful. And the more and more I ask this question, the more common the experience seems to be, wherein people, when you're a kid and you realize that, yeah, it does keep you up at night. And it's kind of funny. I don't know if other people experience this well into adulthood, but just every once in a while, not very often. I mean, I'm an adult now. I'm not like super afraid of death necessarily, but every once in a while, that feeling pops into my heart. Yeah. And I'm just like, holy shit, I'm going to die one day. That's fucked up.
Yeah.
And it's almost like you almost have to embrace that though, right? Because that means you're truly alive. Yeah. If you're worried about dying, that means you love that you're here and whatnot. But yeah, I just wanted to bring that back up. But I think we'll close out here. I'd like to thank you for coming on. Now, you said something about you do live shows then?
Yeah, I do.
Do you just go to like coffee shops or like little venues and play shows or?
Yeah, well, I do open mic pretty often. Okay. I used to live right by Moto I, which is uptown.
Yeah. I love Moto I.
Yep.
I just went there a couple weeks ago to meet a guy, and I always get the abura ramen. Mm-hmm. Oh, it's so good. Yeah, I love their food there.
They have a great open mic night, so I do that. I'm playing a house party. I do, nice. house parties. So it's really like all over the place. You know, it'll be anything from like being a musician, like a quote unquote amateur working musician, I guess you would say. You know, you're promoting on social media, of course. Doing any sort of studio collaboration you can. Getting your like voice on tracks and stuff. Playing on the street, I've done that.
Nice. Yeah, I've got a buddy that used to always go to Dinky Town, and he'd go on Nicolette Mall too, and go and busk.
Yep, that's a good.
he can make more money busking than he could just working his day job. So
You
he
know what?
stopped working as much.
I think I could too. I should get out there more and do it. I did do a showcase at Moto Eye like pretty recently, and that was pretty awesome. I got free drinks, a little bit of tips, and all that. So that to me is success as a musician. If you busk and you make your like liquor food money, you like I have succeeded. You get some ladies too, perhaps. Also, yeah, house parties are great, and campfire songs and.
Sure.
Yeah. That's a really interesting setting is when you're with a group of friends and you like play a song for them.
Yeah, man. You get me in the right setting with the right amount of booze and or just confidence in me, and I can have a lot of fun playing an old song that I know.
Yep.
And yeah, there's nothing better than just making people feel good around a campfire.
Yeah. Actually, I think that's probably one of like my favorite success stories as a musician. When you play a song and people are like, "Did you write that? Like, is that like that sounds like a real song?" I'm like, you know what I mean? And people they don't mean for it to sound kind of rude, but it's like it's like a real song. Like, wow, like you might hear that on like something.
Now, if you heard that from just a regular old person, it's a compliment. If you hear it from another musician, it might be a diss.
Yeah, seriously.
But yeah, man. Again, I really appreciate you coming down here.
Yeah, of course.
And sitting down and doing this.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Thank you very much for tuning in to this episode of Subversion. If you liked this episode, share this with someone that you can think of that would really enjoy this program. And I don't think that it's just limited to the inside baseball of musicians and the sort of subculture in which I'm sort of targeting here. I really do think that any old person could come to appreciate a show like this. So please try to reach out, try to share this with people, because other than bringing music, I'm trying to bring a awareness of the need for certain kinds of charity in the world. And as I said at the top of the show, $1.48 will fund clean drinking water for a family of 4 for a year. So really, a little bit goes a long way. I cannot stress that enough. Thank you very much for tuning in this week. Like I said, if you like this show, please share it, and please hit that subscribe button on your way out. I really would appreciate it. And on that note, I am signing off for the week. But until I see you next Thursday, please take care of yourself, and I will see you then.